Oh, hello, and welcome to the Popcorn Counter here at the Two Reel Cinema Club. I'm James Rosica.
And I'm Andres Lorente.
And you can see, I've been emptying out my pockets here before you arrived. I don't know. I cannot find it. Can you find yours?
An invitation?
Yeah. Where is
to the Oscars?
Where our Oscar invitations exactly? I'm sure it must have arrived this year. Got lost in the post last year. Got lost in the post the year before that. I must have had one this year.
Yeah, I got one. It's from the Oscar Mayer Wiener Corporation, though. It's a hot dog invitation. Jeez.
There we go, an Oscar invitation you can eat.
Yes, that's probably, more nutritional value.
I'm sure that one year I'm going to be watching the Oscars and my postman will be there in the fourth row sitting behind Brad Pitt, and then I'll realise where all my invitations went to. I did not sit and watch the Oscars at home this year, but I did read about it in the morning afterwards in the newspaper.
Yeah, I saw a couple. Fortunately, I saw the Big Ken musical piece.
Okay.
I had it in another room. I was working in one room and I had it, and I'd occasionally run through and see what was happening, and I had a couple texts from people as it was going on. But a bit, honestly, I didn't really focus on it very much. But like you, yes, I looked at it the next day. It is kind of a few hours lost from your life, right? I mean, it's two or 3 hours that you just don't get back. So
I hope you told Christopher Nolan, stop texting me. I'm trying to do some work here. Just stop texting.
That didn't work in the past. I've been trying to get that guy to stop texting me for years. I don't want to have too much to do with him, but boy, he did well, huh?
Yeah, he did well, surprisingly well. I'm sure that you will agree with me. I'm not sure he should have done quite as well as he did. There is an element of the Oscars where they feel they need to give people awards for a body of work rather than necessarily one picture. I don't know whether Oppenheimer is his best picture, but Oppenheimer certainly made money, and it has a certain gravitas. So, yeah, he did very well out of it. I made a little list here of the Best Picture nominees.
Okay.
And we have seen most of them, I think.
I think we've seen and at least talked about a number of them, but
I think, we have seen all of them except one, which is what we're seeing next week. So we have seen Zone of Interest, Poor Things, Past Lives, Maestro, Killers of the Flower Moon, The Holdovers, Barbie, American Fiction, Oppenheimer. We've seen them all except Anatomy of a Fall. So we will have the full set after next week. Out of those, who would you have given the Best Picture Oscar to?
Ooh, I probably would have gone with Zone of Interest, which did get the Best Foreign Film, didn't it? Now, I really liked The Holdovers. I really liked that. I thought it was a very good film, and I think that might have been a runner-up for me. And I liked Poor Things more than you did. I thought it was just very imaginative. But I would probably, in terms of filmmaking, Zone of Interest.
Interesting. You're right. The Zone of Interest did pick up international feature film, made as it was in the United Kingdom. Yep. So I'm glad we've joined the international fraternity of international filmmakers. Yeah. International feature film, I suppose, means not English language. That's kind of what they're driving at, isn't it? I think. Yeah. So it used to be not in the English language, something like that.
Probably, yeah.
Is that what they used to call it? Out of all those, I think the best film with a capital F for me, out of those Best Picture nominees, is The Holdovers. Yeah. It's a little bit traditional, maybe very slightly predictable, but I think it's a great high quality film. I think The Holdovers is the one that will stand the test of time. Yeah. I think that's the one which will be most fondly watched in 20 years' time. Yeah. But The Zone of Interest, it's a quality film. Yeah. Not necessarily a film that I would want to watch again, but it's a quality picture.
And I think that was our best picture on the podcast, and I think we hadn't seen Zone of Interest yet or Poor Things yet. So there are a couple of films that we hadn't seen before that. I even forget on Killers of the Flower Moon where it came in. I think we had seen that one. So yeah, we saw most of them, which was great. I think it's amazing. And we're going to see the one that we haven't seen. So I'm baffled. Either we've got it wrong or millions, hundreds of millions have got it wrong, because I really detested Oppenheimer. It was one of the worst things I saw all year. And we made fun of it quite a bit. We critiqued it heavily. I don't think we liked it. And it's amazing to me that people thought that was an interesting film. I think they were just blown over. It's one of these, it's almost like getting rolled over by one of those pavement things. What do they call it? A steamroller, right? Bam! Just flattened everyone into submission. So I don't get it. I don't get it.
I wonder whether Oppenheimer will turn into a film a little bit like The Artist or something like that. One of those films that gets lots of plaudits, and then a few years later, nobody really remembers anything about it.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I could be wrong, but I agree. I'm not completely sure why Oppenheimer has won all those plaudits, but it's an unstoppable tidal wave now. Not much we can do about it. You and I are interested in writing, and we try and talk about the writing of films when we discuss them in the pod. The original screenplay awards, interesting list of nominees. Past Lives, May December, which I have not seen.
No, I didn't see it.
Maestro, The Holdovers, and then the winner, next week's film, Anatomy of a Fall. Out of all those, which do you feel you would have given the original screenplay award to?
Not Past Lives. I was not.
Yes.
I wasn't even remotely impressed by that screenplay, or at least what I, gathered it was from watching the film. Anatomy of a Fall I haven't seen, so I think that maybe that's the right choice. Maestro, not quite. May December I've not seen. I've seen a couple seconds of it. The Holdovers I liked, but isn't there some controversy around that?
So there is some controversy. No, there isn't. There's some controversy.
Yeah, controversy
about the Holdovers. Insofar as it's one of the writers of Luca, the Pixar film from about 4 years ago, which I think is getting a theatrical re-release this spring.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is a lovely animated film, highly recommended, beautiful piece of work, has come out claiming that The Holdovers plagiarizes his script, a project called Frisco, an unmade film. So there's a big story in this in Variety about 2 weeks ago, possibly capitalizing on some Oscar buzz. I did read the story. I did read some of the excerpts from the two scripts. I'm not entirely sure that I buy this plagiarism claim. I think it's largely been rubbished by people who've looked at the two projects closely. But it's a good way of stealing a bit of thunder. The Holdovers, I think, a very nice, smart, enjoyable script, well delivered by a great cast. But I personally would have given it to The Holdovers, but as you say, I hadn't seen Anatomy of a Fall either.
Gotta look forward to it.
So maybe that will win the gong after we see it. I don't know.
I guess I was under the impression that The Holdovers was based on a book. You read all the books. Was there a book for that, or was that was a screenplay?
I don't think there was a book. know, I don't think there was a book. Obviously, it was based on the previously unmade script Frisco. But apart from that, yes, it's not had a previous life. So, I'm not entirely sure. I agree with you. I don't know why Past Lives is nominated. That seemed like a little bit of a flat, uninteresting, uninvolving screenplay, which did not grab me. Maybe it touched a nerve in some Academy members. I didn't like it.
Well, I think, honestly, I don't think people are reading the screenplays. I don't think the Academy reads the screenplay. I think they see a film, they imagine what the screenplay is. So I don't think that actually happens. It's a very strange award in some ways. You could solve the controversy by giving them...
The what? Sorry, the what?
Thank you. The adapted... You could give them the adapted screenplay credit because they stole the material from another writer. Would that count as adapted?
Yes.
But then you'd be taking the award away from Cord Jefferson, who won for American Fiction on adapted screenplay.
And now that is I also have not read that, but watching the film, I think that is a smart, clever, zippy, fun script. It bears all the hallmarks of a comedy writer from TV, which is who Cord Jefferson is.
Exactly.
Really enjoyed that script.
And you've read the books for 3 of those 5 at least, is that right?
Well, so I read Zone of Interest. And as we discussed when we talked about that film, the film takes maybe 3 pages from the book of Zone of Interest and uses that to turn it into a screenplay for the main picture. So, very little adapted from the original. And I think that was a good choice. I have read Poor Things. I think the book is rather better than the film. I know that you enjoyed the film because you said it was original and new and doing something different. And there's a lot to be said for that. I think the film is a little bit of a shadow of an adaptation of the book, which is rather better and more, I think, cleverer, more involved, richer, with more emotional depth, more better written characters. I think the book of Poor Things is good. I think the script is fine. other nominated scripts for adapted screenplay, Barbie and Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
So Oppenheimer, okay, based on the book American Prometheus, you know what our opinion about that script is.
Yeah. It certainly shouldn't be on this list of nominees.
No, Barbie, I was struggling to figure out what that is adapted from. Is that adapted from the back of the toy box?
I believe so, yeah. Must be. That is a strange nomination, isn't it? Yeah, based on material. It's an adaptation of copyrighted material. That's where we are in the history of cinema right now. It's an adaptation of a toy.
They're almost admitting that as an adaptation of content. My favorite word beginning with C, aren't they?
I did not watch the Oscars, but I heard what Gord Jefferson said about filmmaking. He suggested that instead of making a $200 million film like Oppenheimer, it might have been cost more than that. Why not make 20 films at $10 million? Why not take some chances on some interesting stuff as opposed to just going with this surefire, bombastic, blockbuster, ready-made kind of filmmaking that's just super expensive and pompous?
But is the answer to that question, well, the reason people don't do that is because it takes effort.
Probably, yeah.
Maybe that is it. Directing, which I always struggle to understand why directing is a different award to best film.
Yeah.
When the medium is largely a director's medium.
Yeah.
Directing, the gong goes to Oppenheimer, but the nominees were Zone of Interest, Poor Things, Killers of the Flower Moon, and Anatomy of the Fall for next week. Do you feel like directing is a properly different award to these other ones, or is it materially the same? But a question of giving out more gongs because that makes the ceremony a bit longer.
Yeah, I think you're onto something. I think it's really the same thing as Best Picture. However, it's an opportunity to give an individual award for someone who actually really does a lot of work to make a picture. So it's probably duplicative, but also maybe duplicitous. Ooh, I think I've stumbled on something philosophical.
I've never heard the word duplicative before. That's beautiful.
Because
is that an actual word?
I don't think it is, no.
It is now.
I think every episode, every podcast we do, I come up with some word that really doesn't exist. And I feel no shame. I feel no shame whatsoever. I just do it.
I think that's why you are a writer.
Yeah, I think it does something. It's redundant in the sense that if you win it for Best Picture, but it's the producers who get the award, right? If it's Best Picture, Best Director gives you a chance to acknowledge the person who made the film. So I think, in that sense, I don't think it's, and again, duplicitous in the sense that it kind of masks who really makes the film and who really gets the awards. It's producers are the ones who take the content and ultimately get it into the right hands to make the right film. There's some good choices here. I mean, I'm not that. I think Killers of the Flower Moon's a great film, but I don't think it's for me. That's really that's probably an art direction. I don't even know who won the art direction Oscar. We should look for that. But
I think it was costume design. Poor Things. I'm going to scroll down and find production design. Where is production? Oh, Poor Things. Poor Things. Okay. I think actually that movie probably did deserve production design plaudits because it's interesting, ambitious. Production and costume design on that film. I would probably go with, I would go with either Poor Things or Zone of Interest for best directing. And again, because it's something that's, Poor Things is such an original piece that, there's obviously a lot that goes into directing that and it comes off pretty well. Zone of Interest I thought was just really well done. I think it did what it needed to do. I think the direction it's not like see what I can do directing. It's just very good storytelling. Oppenheimer is see what I can do, even if there's no story to see directing. I'm gonna skip over to animated feature film only because we have only covered one of the nominated animated feature films from this year's list of Oscars, but it was the correct one. So the winner this time round was The Boy and the Heron. In part, you have to ask yourself, I did enjoy The Boy and the Heron, and it's certainly an interesting film, and it's full of ideas. And in part, I think maybe you want to give Hayao Miyazaki an award because
Yeah.
You know that he's elderly now, and has he got another film in him, and you want to acknowledge his contribution to cinema as a whole. Is that the single best directed animated feature film of the last year? I don't know. Maybe it was.
Yeah, did you? I assume you saw some of the other animated films.
We saw Elemental, which is the Pixar film, which I think performed a little bit disappointingly at the box office, had quite long legs. Was quite good fun. It was basically it was Romeo and Juliet, and a cute retelling.
Yeah,
good fun. We did watch Nimona, which is a animated film about a girl who can turn into a dragon. I think a Netflix original, or certainly went straight to Netflix.
Okay.
Which is surprisingly good fun for a pretty low budget animated feature. And I know a lot of people really liked Nimona. I think it works very well as a film about somebody who feels like they are different. So I think it's been kind of looked on as a kind of like a trans metaphor, and I think from that point of view it's very successful. It really works. It's cute actually, and it's a nice central character. Works well. Robot Dreams is one of the other nominees out in cinemas in the UK here now. I know we were considering watching that for the pod, but it doesn't have a North American release, I think.
So strange, but it's right there under the nominees.
Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which was probably the biggest grossing animated film of the year, but I took my son to see that and we found it terribly disappointing.
Yeah.
Not least because it starts halfway through the story and then ends with a to be continued, and you feel like, well, I just watched one episode. I've watched episode 3 of an 8-episode television series there, and I paid to go to the cinema to watch it. Bit unsatisfying. We were both very disappointed by that actually. So. Boy and the Heron, probably the right choice. I don't know whether we will see another Studio Ghibli film like that ever again, so perhaps we should enjoy it while we can. The last one, probably worth making a mention of, I suspect you will have more to say about it than me, is international feature film. So we were kind of saying that means film where you had to read. Is that right? It's kind of film where there were subtitles.
A reader's film.
We're going to lump all those together.
Yeah,
the reading films.
I think you got that right, because Zone of Interest is obviously it's a British film, basically, as far as I can tell. But
yeah, I think so. Yeah,
it's in German, wisely in German. I liked that about it. I like reading, so I don't mind reading at films. I'm looking for the other. Here we go.
So there's Io Capitano, Perfect Days, Society of the Snow, and The Teacher's Lounge. I can't believe there's a film called The Teacher's Lounge, which you haven't seen, because you know all the teacher movies.
I know. Well, it's coming up soon. It's at the museum, I think, next weekend or the weekend after. So it's funny, because I've only seen Zone of Interest, I would say. I passed on Perfect Days just recently. That's a Wim Wenders film that looked really uninteresting. I think Wim Wenders has lost his flair, he's lost his thunder, whatever you want to call it. Teacher's Lounge does look very good. I'll be seeing that soon. And Io Capitano, I'll be seeing probably this week. So I'm going to seeing them too late. But I think, as I said, I thought Zone of Interest was great. So I think it's probably a good choice. Maybe not the right choice, but Society of the Snow is the one about the plane that goes down in the Andes with a rugby team or a soccer team on it. So I do want to see that. I think that one's actually on one of the streamers right now, so I'll probably end up seeing all of those films.
Now, is
one by one.
Is Society of the Snow one of those films where there's a plane crash and the passengers eat each other?
There are a lot of those, it seems like, doesn't it? Yeah.
Because there are a lot of those films, aren't there? Yes.
It's great material. There was a film, I think they made a film almost immediately after it happened. I think it was the 60s or the 70s. So I think there have been many retellings of this story. So
is that a story which deserves many retellings? I feel like the surprise element has been worn away now somehow.
I think it's
just difficult to find new ideas.
I imagine it's a technology thing that makes it compelling to tell again and again.
What the CGI for cannibalism is so much better now.
Exactly. And the plant-based meat, honestly, the plant-based meat is getting so good that I think maybe they're making an argument for going veggie entirely. I don't know. Like there should be lots of veggie material on any plane.
I feel like we have the notion of vegetarianism and we have the notion of cannibalism, but there is a middle ground, actually, which is considered acceptable between those two. Those are not the only two options, I seem to recall.
There's lots of middle ground.
I wonder whether maybe in 50 years' time, humans will look back and recoil at the notion that we used to eat animals. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe that's more than 50 years away.
I want to talk a little bit about the live action shorts just because I saw them. I think
yes.
The day of. So the winner was The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar, which is an adaptation of a Roald Dahl short story or something like that.
Right. Was that the one where you said it was a big star cast and cost lots of money?
Yeah, for me, I think of the short film category as a way to discover some new filmmakers and some people who don't have the backing or the money to make a feature film, but they're up and coming. And this is a Wes Anderson film that was more than 40 minutes long. It's hard to argue that it's a short film. Ralph Fiennes, Ben Kingsley. There were a number of pretty well-named actors in there. Dev Patel was in there.
It's good to see the underdog winning there. Yeah, okay.
Benedict Cumberbatch was in there. I mean, and it was tell, show. It was just overwhelming. My wife fell asleep during it. I was just sighing the whole time. It's exactly. I mean, has Wes Anderson come to the point where he needs to win a Best Short Film Oscar? It's just...
Give the poor guy a break. He's trying to get his career off the ground here.
So wordy, so caricaturish. It was just awful. But there were a couple good films in there. There was, I think it was Danish, Night of Fortune, which was a really lovely film. And then a film called... I'm getting a little confused which one's which. The other one I think was called Invincible, which is about a young troubled Quebecois kid who wrestles with the law. So there were a couple of films that were way more deserving than Wes Anderson.
So you're telling me that Night of Fortune was not a medieval epic starring Tom Cruise?
No, it does sound that way. No, it's a song I think that they sing for the dead in Denmark. It's a very hilarious film but it's very touching too.
Yeah, that sounds hilarious. Yeah, singing songs for the dead. Yeah,
takes place in a morgue. A lot of open casket stuff, but it's a good attitude. They've got a good attitude towards death over there. So I just wanted to mention those because I had such immediate reactions to them, and then the actual award ceremony happened right after I saw the films, and I was very disappointed. And again, I used to be a Wes Anderson nut, and I think a lot of people I know love Wes Anderson. So again, I'm just going to come out on. I think it's the right side of history. Others might think it's the wrong side, but I'm going to throw it in with Oppenheimer. Send it to the dogs.
Oh, to the dogs.
The Isle of Dogs, if you will.
Oh, good. Oh, there's always space for a Wes Anderson pun. There's one more award I would like to talk about before we go ahead and watch the film, which is one of those awards which I think is kind of probably underrated, and it's one of the technical awards that comes really low on the agenda, and not one of the awards that people talk about, but it's so essential to the art of filmmaking. It's the award that a friend of the pod knows intimately. I'm talking about the sound Oscar. Out of all of those, so the nominees, Oppenheimer.
Yeah, of
course. And there certainly was a lot of loud sound in that. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning: Part 1. I don't really remember anything about the sound from that, but certainly there was sound in it. Maestro, which had a lot of sound of some instruments in it. The Creator, which I have not seen. But the winner, it's not often... I think that you can point to a film where sound is so integral, it is basically the medium through which the entire story is told. The winner is Zone of Interest, which is a great choice for sound Oscar.
Yeah.
Not because it's necessarily astonishingly different sound design, but because this is a film where the sound is more important than that it is in any other film that I can think of, I think. Without the sound... the meaning of the film changes absolutely and utterly. With most films, you can get a sense of the story with the speaker broken on your television set. Or in Zone of Interest, you cannot. The sound is totally fundamental to the way that film works. So I was glad to see it get a gong.
Yes, and so funny because I just a few pods ago I said this is the worst opening for a film I've seen because it's just black and then some kind of music. But once you get beyond that first minute or 2 minutes at the beginning of the film, the sound is absolutely crucial. Yeah. You're absolutely right. And it's good. It's well done. It's a film with, it's German language, so I'm reading, as I often do at the theater. But the sound really captures your attention. It's very literate sound. It really tells the story, and it really is wonderfully done. And it's shocking because, again, when you sit through the first couple of minutes of that film, if that's what it is, the black at the beginning, it does not set you up for the sounds that are to come, I don't think so. Well done.
It's only a matter of time before we're going to see friend of the pod, Michael Primmer, walking up to collect his gong, I think.
I hope so, yeah.
Cannot come soon enough.
That would be awesome.
Well, you know what I can hear now? I can hear the sound of the popcorn machine. We should get popcorn and then go in and see Anatomy of a Fall.
Let's do it. I'm hungry.
And if Anatomy of the Fall were to win sound Oscar, I can only presume that that's because there's some sort of loud thud.
So many good stories start with a thud like that.